First of all, I was asked to differentiate between this morning and the afternoon session. This morning we're going to be talking just about strength-based leadership, the book. Each of you hopefully have gone through and taken that profile. We'll focus in on that. This afternoon we're going to be talking about change and how your strengths will be able to lead change or maybe not lead change moving forward. So there will be two different sessions, although I think you'll see some tie-in between the two. It's really fun for me to be here. Jim walked up to me earlier this morning and kind of said, "Hey, do I know you?" And I had to look at his name tag. And the reason why is Jim had the biggest afro in the history of white guys. Up until the day I thought he was 6'11", and he was only 6'7" without his afro. So Jim, it's not because your face has changed. I just didn't realize how short you were. So again, it's fun for me to see Jim. I think all of you probably know I worked with Britton and we miss her in St. George, but it's fun to see her up here as well. So again, it's my pleasure to hang out with you this morning. And I promise you, I'm going to get you involved in this session. So if I see you playing with your laptop, I promise you, I will be right there with you to get your attention, because that's how this session will work the very best. So again, it's my honor to be here, and I'll work very hard to have some fun. I like to have fun. At my age, it's good to have fun. Everybody kind of wonders about the long hair. I graduated 40 years ago, and I had the shortest hair in my high school class. I'm having my high school 40-year reunion in August 17th. I'm bound and determined to go back with the longest hair. So that's why the haircut thing's going. I bet I'll cut it, because in St. George it's awful hot about August 18th. And I'm sure I'll do something a little different from that point forward. All right, so to get started, we're going to have a little bit of fun. Again, I'm a leadership coach. Leadership coaches are famous for asking questions. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions over the next hour and a half about leadership, about your leadership, and specifically how others might view your leadership. Because I think we all know what kind of leaders we want to be, but I got some bad news for you. That's not always what other people see. And again, that can create some issues for you and I, and we'll talk about that. But to get us started, to get us rolling, everybody take out a piece of paper and a pen or pencil. I'm going to ask you some questions just to have a little bit of fun. All right, here we go. Here's the boundaries for this session. I'm going to read each of these questions one time. You got to respond to that question, and I want you to respond to that question without your eyes peeking around to somebody else's answer. Now, I've taught in the MBA program at Weber State and Boise State. I know all the tricks people will use to get the answer from somebody else. So I'm asking you for this first go around, even though I'm going to only ask the question one time, the best you can, write the answer down, and then we'll move forward. So again, starting with question number one. Please pay attention. Being very tired, a child went to bed at 7 o'clock at night. The child had a morning piano lesson and therefore set the alarm clock to ring at 8:45. How many hours and minutes of sleep could this child get? Go ahead and write your answer down. Some of you are saying, I wish he'd repeat that question one more time. No, you get one shot at it. Question number two, pay close attention. Some months, like October, have 31 days. Only February has precisely 28, except in a leap year. How many months have 30 days? And you can use your hand if you need that as a calculator. Question number three. I know where Big Jim's from, so he'll get this one. A farmer had 18 pigs, and all but 7 died. How many were left? Question number four. Divide 50 by 1/3 and add 7. What is your answer? Question number 5. What is the minimum number of active baseball players on the playing field during any part of an inning? To help all of our egos, question number 6 is, What four words appear on every denomination of U.S. currency? Question number 7. Please pay attention. If a physician gave you 5 pills and told you to take one every half hour, how long will your supply last? Question number 8. If you had only one match and entered a cold, dimly lit room where there was a kerosene lamp, an oil heater, and a wood-burning stove, what would you light first? Question number 9. 2 women are playing checkers. They play 5 games without a draw, and each woman wins the same number of games. How is this possible? Question number 10, true or false? Today is the first day of the rest of your leadership life. Now, I forgot to tell you, if anybody gets all 10 correct, Colleen said you could take this Saturday off as long as you came back bright and early on Monday. So I do want to let you know there is some incentive for you to do well on this test. So hopefully somebody will be able to get a 10 and be able to do that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to read each question one more time. And this time, only the interaction of your table. I'm going to allow the table 15 seconds to talk amongst each other. And again, my suggestion is don't talk too loud because you don't want your fellow tables to get your answer if you believe it's right. So keep it within the small group. And at the end of that 15 seconds, each of you need to write, or each team needs to write down their answer. And we'll see what each team does. All right, here we go. Here's the boundaries for this session. I'm going to read each of these questions one time. You got to respond to that question, and I want you to respond to that question without your eyes peeking around to somebody else's answer. Now, I've taught in the MBA program at Weber State and Boise State. I know all the tricks people will use to get the answer from somebody else. So I'm asking you for this first go-around, even though I'm going to only ask the question one time, the best you can, write the answer down, and then we'll move forward. So again, starting with question number 1, please pay attention. Being very tired, a child went to bed at 7 o'clock at night. The child had a morning piano lesson and therefore set the alarm clock to ring at 8:45. How many hours and minutes of sleep could this child get? Go ahead and write your answer down. Some of you are saying, I wish he'd repeat that question one more time. No, you get one shot at it. Question number 2, pay close attention. Some months, like October, have 31 days. Only February has precisely 28, except in a leap year. How many months have 30 days? And you can use your hand if you need that as a calculator. Question number 3. I know where Big Jim's from, so he'll get this one. A farmer had 18 pigs, and all but 7 died. How many were left? Question number 4. Divide 50 by 1/3 and add 7. What is your answer? Question number 5. What is the minimum number of active baseball players on the playing field during any part of an inning? To help all of our egos, question number 6 is, what 4 words appear on every denomination of U.S. currency? Question number 7. Please pay attention. If a physician gave you 5 pills and told you to take one every half hour, how long will your supply last? Question number 8. If you had only one match and entered a cold, dimly lit room where there was a kerosene lamp, an oil heater, and a wood-burning stove, what would you light first? Question number 9. 2 women are playing checkers. They play 5 games without a draw, and each woman wins the same number of games. How is this possible? Question number 10, true or false? Today is the first day of the rest of your leadership life. All right, good job. So why did I start this session? Why did I start this session with that, again, for some of you, not a very necessarily accurate quiz? What are some of the thoughts behind that? Interesting. Cheryl, take that one step further. She said team building. What's the lesson from that session?
That together, a group together can pool their resources and come up with a better answer.
Yeah, what are some of the things that are included in resources as it applies to that quiz? What are some of the different things resource-wise that many of you had? Experience, right? I think that's exactly right. Some of you, and I know Big Jim didn't do so well in math, so that 50 divided by 1/3, he had to go look at somebody else and say, hey, what's the answer? Is that good leadership or bad leadership on Jim's part? That's great leadership on Jim's part. Because again, from my experience, and I've been doing this a long time, many of you think of yourself as, I am the leader, I need to have the right answer. And if I don't have the right answer, maybe there's something wrong with me. And oftentimes, that's how your people will see you, even though you may not see yourself quite the same way. Carol.
Dennis, on my side of the point of you giving us the questions, and as a leader, as you're telling us, you could be receiving the whole thing different, and the words are twisted totally different how you say it.
Yeah, isn't that true? Isn't that, yeah.
There it is.
That's exactly right. Some of you say, well, Dennis didn't say that. I didn't hear the AM, PM. And if you use the boundaries, if you use the building of the team, oftentimes what gets heard gets clarified. But I'm here to tell you, each one of us as individuals, we tend to believe, I know what I just heard, it must be right, I'm going to respond accordingly. And sometimes as leaders, we're not as effective as we could be. So again, the book, Discover Your Strengths, talks a lot about your strengths. How do you utilize those strengths? But I'm going to introduce some concepts to you this morning that at the very least, hopefully will get you thinking about your leadership, about others' leadership in just a little different way. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to ask you some questions. And again, I don't stay up late at night, so I don't watch Letterman's Top 10 Questions that often, but I'm going to try to utilize that concept to see if we can get some mutual understanding this morning about what is leadership, what is your leadership as is perceived by others. So the first question, if you were going to give a simple, and by simple, one-word definition of leadership, what are some of the things that might come up with that simple one-word definition of leadership? Anybody? Authenticity. I have a tough time writing stuff I don't know how to spell. So I'm going to, when you see me scribble, good, thank you. What are some other one-word definitions of leadership? Please. Integrity. I like that, Rhonda. Inspire. Others. What are some other definitions? Jim?
Trust.
Trust, good. We're certainly talking about some great behaviors of leaders. Any other definitions? Andy? Vision. All right. Any other definitions of leadership? Britton? Character. Okay. Britton? I didn't hear what you said.
Yes, you did. Advocate.
I actually didn't.
That's because I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. That makes sense then. Advocate. I like that one. Please, Clint.
Facilitate.
All right, facilitate. A couple more. Simple definitions of leadership. This leadership thing's hard. Please.
The most simple is that there are followers.
All right. Development. I like that. You must be in training. Education. One more. Communicate, okay? Listener. All right. With your permission, I would like to see if we can maybe focus on 2 or 3 of these definitions. Again, I think they're all right. I certainly feel comfortable with all those. I like the word inspire. A leader is someone who inspires others so that their end results as a result of that inspiration might be at a higher level than they would on their own. So I like that one. And there's a couple other. Educate, facilitate, advocate. I'm going to change that and use the word serve. So I'm going to say inspire, influence, and serve. And again, I think those 3 words are certainly up there in some combination of what you've shared with me. So my next question is this, and again, I think inspire, influence sounds pretty straightforward. If you're a leader and part of your job as a leader is to serve others, how do you go about doing that? How does a leader serve others? Because don't most of you think, hey, I'm the leader, I can't wait. People got to start serving me. This is great. And I would suggest that an effective leader is one who serves others. So, Britton, what's one way that you can serve?
If you have authority to remove roadblocks, you do that so that they
All right. Yeah, I think that's a good way to serve. You remove roadblocks. Okay, you empower others. Okay, I think listening is a great way to serve others. What else can you do to serve others? Cheryl?
Well, this goes along with listen, but you have to know what people need. in
All
order
right.
to serve them.
Know my people. Be an advocate for them, sure. Some of these other definitions from the prior page. Any other ways that you as a leader can serve others? That's your job. People are not there to serve you. You're there as a leader to serve others.
set clear parameters.
All right. I think that's great. Establish parameters, boundaries. Ah, perfect. Provide tools.
How about mediate?
Certainly, mediate. Okay. Different than that? No, that's okay. I was probably standing in your way. Jim. All right, I like that. Be open to new ideas. So you're telling me, Jim, as a leader, one way to serve your people is to be open to their ideas, other ideas. Absolutely. Good. I agree 100%. Anybody else? Any other ways you can serve? Because of those of you that are in leadership positions right now, and I'm going to suggest all of you are, whether you're a supervisor or not, I'm hoping that some way, shape, or form, your career is based on how well you do what's on that page right there. Please, Cheryl.
Get out of the way.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. And again, how many of you have worked for the supervisor who said, I am the way, you better come through me? I'm sure they don't have any of those in this library system. I've seen them elsewhere. Jim?
I think you got to be a problem solver.
All right, absolutely. Cheryl?
A little bit of a psychotherapist.
I don't know how to spell psychotherapist. Is there an easier word for that one? Shrink. Maybe. I can spell shrink. Yeah, that might be a listener. That might be a problem solver. There's probably a lot of things that define that. Jim?
I think one would be just being organized, not wasting people's time.
Okay, good. Perfect. Don't waste others' time. I think that's a great way to serve. All right, so from a time standpoint, let's move on. But again, here's my point to you with question number 10. That's what you're getting paid for. And I would suggest anybody in this room that feels like they're not getting paid for the things that are on there, we can have a good lunch session. Because I believe that's what you're getting paid for. All right, good. Good job. Question number 9. What are the odds of someone having the exact same profile as yours? So for those of you, how many took the profile? Raise your hand if you took it. All right, so many of you took it. You know what your top 5 are. What are the odds that somebody has the exact same profile as yours? Here's mine: strategic, learner, achiever, focus, and maximizer. I've just told you everything you need to know about me. Those 5. What are the odds that somebody has those 5 in the exact same order? Anybody want to guess? Pat?
I think slim.
Slim? What's slim? How much?
Well, what I was thinking too, though, if you're in the same kind of a work environment, probably a higher chance.
Maybe.
Because the same skills are valued in a certain work environment. So maybe this room is a bigger chance, but I would think overall probably a slim chance.
So slim, define slim. 1 in what?
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%. All right. So 1 in 100. All right, good. Anybody else want to throw a number out? What are the odds that somebody's going to have the exact same profile as you?
Now, is order of
In the exact order. Exact 5, exact order. Matt, what do you think? You seem like a math guy. What's the odds?
Probably 1 in a billion.
1 in a billion or billion?
A billion.
1 in a billion. I'll give you a hint. They're somewhere between 1 in 100 and 1 in a billion.
Is it 1 in 22,000?
1 in 22,000. One in 33 million. You've been talking to somebody with the know.
I just did the math.
Ah, interesting. Show me how to do that, because people want me to show them. I never know how to do it.
There's 34.
Permutations of 34 over 5. 1, and I would have said 32 million, but you know, who's going to argue with her? She knew exactly. I'm going to 33 million effective today. The odds of someone having the exact same profile as yours are 1 in over 30 million. Now again, Pat's point, I'm not going to debate that, says there's better odds in this room because we all kind of do the same thing. I've done profiles of somewhere between 500 and 700 people. Obviously, I've never seen the same 2. But think about it in these terms. You are the only one probably in the whole state of Utah with your profile in the exact order in the state of Utah. Now again, add the surrounding states of what? Colorado, Wyoming, Idaho, New Mexico, Arizona, and Nevada, and the odds are still pretty good you're the only one with that exact profile. So good numbers. I'm really impressed with that. Geez, that's amazing. I'm going to have my son talk to you. So my question is, why is that important? Why is it important for you to understand and recognize only 1 in 32 million people have your exact profile from a leadership perspective? Why is that important? It certainly makes you unique. Yep.
It makes you realize that everybody's going to have a different way of looking.
Oh, man, different way of looking. What else? All right, back to the quiz. Back to the early quiz. Others see things you don't see, right? Interesting. How many of you were promoted into the job you're in right now? How many of you were promoted? Okay. I bet when you went home the night you got promoted, you said to yourself, this is cool. Now everybody has to start seeing it the way I do. I can't wait till tomorrow. Again, we're kind of laughing about that. And my suggestion is, from my years of doing this, I'm not too far off. I finally get to be the man or the woman who gets to see and make sure everybody else sees it the same way. I can't wait for tomorrow. Am I going to impress everybody based on what I know? And again, one of my suggestions is, it's not about what you know. It's your ability to tie together what others know that makes you an effective leader. And my suggestion is this: it's not very easy to do. It's not very easy to do. Because most of us would rather say about our people, what's wrong with Dennis? He never sees it the way I see it. There's some problem with him. I can't wait for the next evaluation so I can let him know. Again, people don't see it the same way you do, and you got two choices as a leader. Choice number one is you can sit at your pyramid, you can sit at the top of your box, whatever that might look like, and you might force your people to see it the way you see it. And here's what people will do, because most people in the workplace are very loyal. They are going to be dancing as best they can to see it the way you do, because they want to. You're the boss. And most of the time, they end up doing this dance. Anybody did that dance with your boss? Anybody ever do a dance like that with your boss? I'm one of the best dancers in America trying to figure out how to dance with my boss. Or you can spend time as a leader and trying to understand how your people see it. And which is more effective? Which is better chance of doing this as a leadership, as a leader? Is it forcing them to see it your way or trying to understand how they do? Interesting question for you to contemplate. All right, question number 8. Does your leadership profile change over time? So many of you might have just taken the profile for the first time in the last couple weeks, the last couple months. My question is this: if you would have taken it 10 years ago or 10 years from now, would that profile change much? In other words, back to mine. If I take it 10 years from now, is that going to change much? Please. Can I respond to your first question or your first comment? I wish that my leadership style could change. Who has control over that? So let's say today this is my profile and I'm the worst leader in the history of leaders. 10 years from now, I do it again and it comes out the same. Is it possible for me to be an effective leader 10 years from now? You're nodding your head? Either one.
I think you can, but I think it's how you approach that profile.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a good answer. That's a good answer. Dustin.
It also depends on the situation you're in 10 to 15 years. There's times in the history of the world where a dictatorial style of leadership is essential,
Like Hitler.
the aftermath of 9/11.
So let me ask you, do you think that with that strength profile, that I could adjust my leadership style if I felt the situation warranted it to be dictatorial?
I'm a believer that we have a small percentage of change. I spent a lot of time last semester arguing with a professor about this, so.
No, you're not arguing with me. In fact, I love the debate because there's no right or wrong answer to this question. I'm trying to get you some insight into yourself. Please.
I would hope you would come up with a little more wisdom and knowledge in that amount of time.
All right. All right, here, let me give you an example. When I was 12 years old, I had two older brothers that were really good basketball players. They were as good as there was in the state. And I said to myself when I was 12 years old, I want to play college basketball. And from that point forward, everything I did resonated with that strategic goal at 12 years old. And if you ask me at age 58, what my thoughts are, what are the sort of things you're thinking about, what do you suggest they might be? You think I'm tactfully thinking about today, or do you think I'm strategically thinking about tomorrow? What do you think? Yeah, probably the latter. And I would suggest for those of you that are achievers, you didn't just become an achiever today because your job required it. I'll bet you if you go back to kindergarten, your kindergarten teacher would say, that's an amazing kindergartner. And I'll bet you when you're an older person, your level to get things done will continue to be at a high level. So here's my argument. You don't have to buy it. I think very unlikely that if you took that test again, they would show up in the exact order they did today. But I would also tell you the picture doesn't change much. The picture doesn't change much. How you're feeling that day doesn't change much. And again, I don't know where it comes from. I don't know if it's DNA. I don't know if you're born with it. I'm certainly not smart enough to know that. But I know in the morning when you wake up and you go about your leadership day, the 5 leadership attributes that showed up on yours, that's how you make decisions today. And you do it and you don't even think about it. I certainly don't get up and say, I can't wait to be strategic today. It just happens. Don't know where it came from. And you do exactly the same way. Your top 5, whatever they are, is what causes you to make decisions and react with people from that point forward. And it doesn't change much. All right, good. Where are we at? All right. Is your strength profile, this high technology stuff, high technology to me is sticky paper on the backside. Is your profile applicable only to you at work? So those of you that work for the library system, I assume you work Monday through Friday, something like 9 to 6. Those 5 things that we just talked about a moment ago, we suggested that those kind of come to you whatever your work hours are. Are they applicable to you in any other aspects of your life? Anybody have a thought? Sure.
These form the prism through which you see the world. And it's gonna apply whether you're at work or at home or shopping or anything.
Okay. So what Cheryl is suggesting is those 5 strength attributes, they become the prism for how you look at things. You were right. So what are some other elements of your life would these 5 leadership attributes be applicable to you? What are some of the others? Family would be one. Steve, what's another one?
Neighborhood.
All right. Neighborhood interactions. Good. I'm sorry? Friends. Finances. Yeah, good. Any other elements of your life that these 5 might kick in?
I think your hobbies or what you like to do.
I would think so. Your hobbies? Good. Yeah, one of the strength profile attributes was analytical. Anybody analytical in here based on your results? I'll bet you right now Britton's checkbook is down to the penny. And mine is somewhere within the $100. Give or take $100, I'm cool with that. But I promise you, if you're analytical, if you're more than 1 penny off, you're debating with Zions Bank for days at a time trying to find that penny. And you can't help it. And you can't help it. So again, what we're talking about, if you haven't taken the strength profile yet, wow, I would do it even if you don't think about work at all. Work means nothing to me, it's just a job. I'd do it because it resonates with how you live your life and how other people see you. Take it, find out what that looks like. All right, very good. All right, now let's get controversial. You guys have been way too easy. All right, here's the deal. Bunch of you are sitting around the lunchroom. And one of you get up and walk away. The person that walks away, what do you think those people are talking about once you walk out the door? And let's play around with this a little bit. Steve, can you help me pass this out, please? Why don't you go that way and I'll go this way. Oh, man, are we going to have fun now. Everybody, if you'll grab one of those handouts that either Steve or I are passing out. Let's stay with the front page on harmony. Did everybody get one? Thank you. All right, so let's just say, and we'll use me as an example, even though I don't have harmony. Let's just say Dennis walks out of the room, and harmony is my number 1 strength attribute. Look at those statements that are on that piece of paper. Some are on the left column, some are on the right column. What do you think people are probably saying about you as you walk out the door? Look at those statements and pick out one. Which one do you think they might be saying? Remember, you're not in the room to hear it. They know you're not in the room to hear it. Looking strictly at harmony. All right, anybody want to venture a guess? What might be said about good old Dennis as he walks out of the room? What do you think they might say?
95 and 5.
All right, good. Why, Dustin? Why would they say that about me when I walk out of the room?
You're a leader and an achiever, so like you probably have a concept of bringing people along with you, but you know at times you have to make a hard decision.
Ah, very good. You're good at this.
Yeah.
I don't know what else you're good at, but you're good at this. Yeah, without belaboring it too much, and we'll do a couple more, I would suggest if you're high in harmony and you walk out of the room and people are talking about you, probably what they're saying is something that's on that right column, including the 95.5. So, boy, have I opened up new worlds for you now. You know what people are saying about you when you leave. You've been wondering all this time what they've been saying. And now I'm telling you, if you're harmony, that's probably what they're saying. He sure is a good guy, but boy, he gets taken advantage of. Why doesn't he have the guts to stand up and do what's right? We say it lots of different ways, but I can promise you, in some way, shape, or form, they're talking about what's on the right side. Let's do another one. Turn it over. This one's learner. Same scenario. Let's say Big Jim is a learner. He walks out of the room. The rest of us are all sitting around talking, and pretty soon somebody says something about Big Jim. What do you think might be said looking at those comments associated with the learner?
Boy, you sure have a tendency to ask a lot of questions.
Interesting. Isn't it funny? Isn't it an amazing thing that human nature causes us to say something more aligned with the right side than the left side? He sure asks a lot of questions. He's not very trusting. He doesn't stay focused on the task at hand, or some of those other comments associated with the right side of learner. Anybody want to debate me? Anybody want to argue with me? Anybody want to say, no, I never say anything bad about anybody else?
Well, I was just going to say,
Here we go, the 1 in 33 million. Listen to what she has to say. It's got to be right on.
I'm a learner, and so I saw that, and I don't picture myself as someone that asks a lot of questions. I picture myself as more like learning things on my own. So
Oh man, did we role play this or not? Have I ever seen you before? I have never seen her before, and she has just played in to where we're headed. Thank you very much. So there's 2 more on the back. Again, if you wanted to, you could look at those. But here's the points. What's your name? Lindy. My son's name's Brady, by the way. He'll be here at lunch. All right, I will. Here's what I would suggest. Ah, nuts. Colleen, I'm so embarrassed. I'm going to throw out 2 terms. And she played into them perfectly. On the left side, on each of those are your strengths. If you're a learner and you look at the things that are on the left side, those statements, those are the statements that make you special. They make you unique. It doesn't matter whether it's learner or any of the other 33. Those things on the left side of all of those are your strengths. Those are the things that make you special. On the right side, I'd like to throw out a new term for you to at least consider, and that's called blind spots. and I chose the term carefully. I ride my bicycle, as Britton knows, every single day that I live in St. George. I've been riding my bike for 35 years. And the one thing I know for sure about riding a bicycle, without any question, that if I get about right here in a car, if I get in his or her blind spot, there's a really good chance that I'm going to get hurt. And I can tell you from experience, that's true. I believe only in the state of Wyoming would somebody hurt me on a bicycle on purpose. Lived there twice, true statement. Every other state in America, people that hit you on your bike in a blind spot, that person feels really bad about what they've done. And here's the analogy with you and your leadership. No matter what your 5 are, you've got a right side to each one of those 5, and that blind spot is oftentimes what hurts you and hurts those around you, even though you're probably the last one to know it. So again, back to this perfect role play. Do you think most people see their left side really easily, or do you think they see their right side easily? What do you think most of us see? Yeah, we are all over the left side. Dennis, you haven't told me anything I did not know. And I'm special, and I'm gifted, and I feel pretty good about it. As you should. As you should. If you see your left side really well, who then sees your right side? Everybody else. So just a moment ago, as she stuck her foot in her mouth, she said, well, I don't see that right side at all. And my suggestion is none of us do either. And the point of today's session is starting to get an understanding and a grasp of what other people see about you from a leadership perspective. That's what this morning is all about. Can you have the courage, and I use the word courage liberally, can you have the courage to utilize and be grateful for those gifts no matter which one of those you have? What's on the left side, those are your gifts, and you ought to be utilizing them to the full extent. However, the other part of that is this. Can you be humble enough? Can you be humble enough as a leader to recognize, acknowledge, admit that others might see something different than you think you're providing? And I got to tell you, that's not easy to do. That's not easy to do. And again, we're not talking just at work. If you're a leader of your family, I promise you the people in your family are seeing the exact same thing. Your hobbies, other aspects of your life, they're seeing the exact same thing from a leadership perspective. I wish somebody would have reviewed mine with me 30 years ago, because I've got an embarrassing number of stories that I could tell you about how I screwed it up from a leadership perspective. I just didn't know. And boy, does it take a lot of humility to understand and recognize, and more importantly, start to do something about it. All right. Question number 6. Your child or someone you love brings home the following report card. 2 A's, a B, C, another A, and another B. Where do you think most parents go when they see that report card? Now again, believe me, I've been all over the world where many people say, if my kid brought that report card home, they could have anything in the whole world. That's the best report card I've ever seen. I know that there are some parents out there that would love that report card. But generally speaking, where do most parents go with that report card? Pat?
It depends on the kid, because say C is English, you know that's where your kid struggles. If that kid made a C in English, that's awesome. Because you know where your kid's strength is. Now, if it was English and you know your kid's strength is English, they have a C, that's a whole different story.
She's a tough one to ask for a one-word answer.
The C. They look at the C.
They look at the C. Pat's got all these answers that I had no clue what she was talking about.
Not necessarily.
My suggestion is, and again, Pat certainly got her own experience, and I'm not going to debate that. My suggestion, if you get back to the question, is where do most parents go? The answer is they go to the C. And they're doing things like this. If you wouldn't mind me being physical with you for a second, how come? What are you going to do about it? Let's get started now. Sooner the better. Let's get going. And the kid goes just like this. There goes Dad again. What's wrong with him? He did this last quarter. When is he ever going to figure it out? That's not going to work. Now, your kid might be a little nicer to you and not quite so dramatic. But my bet is, in some way, shape, or form, that's the response you're getting. And again, believe me, as a parent, I believe part of our job description is to try to get our kids to get good grades. In today's world, right, wrong, or indifferent, good grades create opportunities. So there is nothing wrong with trying to coach your kids to better grades. Please don't misunderstand that. But maybe what we ought to be doing is something like this. Hey, son or daughter, you got 3 classes that you did really well in. I'd like to talk to you about those. What are some of the reasons why you're excelling in those classes? What is it about the teacher? What is it about that curriculum? What is it about that subject matter that's causing you to do so well? And my suggestion is this. As a parent, as a leader of your family, if you have the courage to take that kind of approach, I think your kid will go just like this, with their mouth wide open. Dad wants to talk to me about something I wouldn't mind talking about. And now if you do a good job of asking me questions, regardless of the age of the kids, I think your kids walk away from that conversation doing something like this. If I can do some of the same things that I'm doing here, and if I can start to apply some of those same behaviors here, you know what? There's a chance that I might do something a little better in those other classes. So back to the first question about leadership, inspiring, influencing, serving. Which one of those 2 approaches, Andy, is going to do that for your kid?
Inspiring, for sure. Or the second approach.
Yeah. So isn't it interesting? Strength-based leadership. We all talk about being effective, utilizing people's strengths. But I promise you, every one of you in this room, in some way, shape, or form, you're going to that C so quickly, you don't even realize you're doing it. And then you're wondering why things like, why doesn't my employee respond? What's wrong with my kid? How come this? And my coaching to you is, you know what? Quit worrying about what they're doing and start thinking about what you're doing from a leadership perspective. Because it starts with you. It always has, and it always will. I get lots of phone calls from companies, from managers saying, Dennis, can you come in and help fix my organization? And the first thing I always say, and I've learned this the hard way, can I start with you? And if the individual says, no, I'm not the problem, it's my group, they're all screwed up. They're lazy, they don't do this, this, and this. Then I've learned, wasted my time, wasted their time. Because it always starts with us as leaders. If you got groups or if you got people that are not responding as well as they could, quit looking at them, quit forcing them to do this, and start thinking about what you're doing or not doing from a leadership perspective. You might be amazed at what some of the results could be. All right, 5 more questions. What do you think is more important? If you want to be an effective leader, you really do want to inspire people. You really do want to influence people. You really want to serve others. That's important to you. What do you think is more important? What your intentions are or what you actually do? What do you think is more important with respect to inspire, influence, and serve others? Pat, I'd ask you the question, but we only got like 25 minutes.
I could give a one-word answer.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
Inspire.
So you're saying it's your behavior that's more important than your intentions? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Okay. Anybody want to talk about that? So again, back to your point about being a learner, your left side is what you intend to do. That's what you intend to do. That's why we feel so good about our left side. Look at this. You'll show your neighbor. Look at all these great things I do. Unfortunately, sometimes what you actually do, what people actually see you do, is oftentimes different. And I would suggest that the difference is called a leadership gap. And the wider your gap is, every one of you in this room, including especially me, we've got a leadership gap. Because what we intend to do and what we actually do, what others see us do, is oftentimes significantly different. And again, back to the point, and I can't remember who made it. If you're a bad leader now, does that mean 5 years from now you have to be a bad leader? My suggestion is absolutely not. It does not matter what your 5 leadership attributes are. The question is, are you willing to do the work to close the gap? And it's not easy. It's not easy. Because when push comes to shove, all of us kick in to what I intend to do. My strengths on the left side, we kick in there so quickly. We don't stop and realize that sometimes what other people are seeing from us is sometimes different. Can you close your leadership gap? All right, 4 more questions. The most effective teams are made up of individuals with similar leadership strengths. And here's what I mean by that. If in the book you look closely, there's 34 profile attributes. We talked about that. Those 34 attributes are broken down into 4 categories, 4 general categories. A person is an executor. They're good at inspiring others. They're good at relationship building. They're effective strategic thinkers. The best teams are the ones that think alike. True or false? I hear some falses. Why? Nazis? Wait a minute, I didn't write Nazi anywhere up there. What do you mean by that?
Well, if you're talking about groups that think alike and have the same type of goals, if people aren't comfortable with presenting alternate ideas, then you can go down some dangerous paths.
Interesting. Jim?
I'm going to bring it back to basketball. What position did you play?
Point guard.
So if Neil McCarthy, our coach, recruited all point guards, what's that going to do to our team? They're all going to be smaller guys and fast, but they're not going to be able to really get up by the rim. So they recruited different people to be able to bring different aspects of strength to the team.
What Jim's really saying is, Dennis, you didn't pass me the ball enough. I've still got some feelings about that 30 years later. You were a point guard, what happened to you? But his point is perfect. That's exactly right. Cheryl?
Yeah, I agree with that. But on the other hand, if you get a team where the members are too different, then a lot of time, well, I believe that it's going to be difficult for you to work together
All right.
and lead as a
Yeah, what's the pro if all your team is executors? What's the pro? What's the good about that? We are going to get stuff done. We are going to be all over the place, and we are going to be getting stuff done. Now, we're not inspiring anybody. We have no relationships, and we could care less about tomorrow. But boy, we're getting stuff done. And again, we've all been there. Matt.
So, and I don't know, maybe you can have a team made of people who have those different strengths, but you can still work together, right? It's not, if you all have different things, it doesn't mean there's going to be necessarily conflict. It means you can all approach this from a different angle and you realize that.
So what's the key? What's the key to what he just said? What's the key to making that happen? Leadership. It's leadership. It's your ability to do what I consider to be kind of hard. Get people with different thought processes all on the same page, working towards the same goal. Please.
There was an ILEAD session last June
Okay.
about like how the evolution of groups
Uh-huh.
kind of go, and it made me think of this because sometimes things are rockier, sometimes they're better, but you kind of have to push past it even with your different members. And the talk of the ILEAD session is having different members is greater. In the end, the result is better.
Yeah, it's interesting. In Washington County, and Britton knows this, we use this as a recruiting tool. If you got a team and you got a bunch of executors and you're interviewing for open jobs, do you think we ought to go hire another executor? Some people would say, God, they think just like us. They said all the right things in the interview. You're hired. And it happens a lot. It happens a lot. I loved what they say because it sounds just like me. I love that. We're hiring that person. And my suggestion is, even though it's harder, and I give you that, the best thing you can do from a leadership perspective is make sure you got some proper balance of all of those. And that's hard to do, but it can be done. All right, so let's play with this really quickly. So looking at those four general categories, what is the strength of an executor? What do executors do better than anything else? If you're an executor, what do? You get things done. We'll talk a little bit more about this afternoon. If you're an executor, you are good at getting things done. Always have been, always will be. But now back to the term that I used earlier, what's the blind spot of an executor? From a leadership perspective, what's the blind spot?
They push through sometimes too quickly.
Okay, might be one. What else? Might be one.
They don't care about people as individuals. They care about the bottom line, getting the thing done.
Which one of these words best exemplifies a person that's high in execution? I will get this done. Just watch me. And again, my suggestion, if you're an executor, is not to say that's a bad leadership, because it's not. Getting things done is a wonderful attribute. But don't kid yourself for one moment that your ability to get things done through other people needs a little bit of work, because your natural tendency will be to focus on what I got to get done. And if you don't believe me, ask the people that work for you. They'll tell you. Please.
So help me understand this test as you talk about our strengths. Like when it's ranked 1 through 5, like how do we understand this? Is it like a factor of 1 between each step, or could they be very similar? Like does it give us a detailed analysis in there sometimes?
It doesn't give you a detailed analysis, although for a certain amount of money you can get more of a detailed analysis. It gives you a snapshot of what your strengths are. No more. Doesn't give you relativity. It just says 1 through 5. What do you use naturally to help you make leadership decisions?
Because I look at mine, and you're talking about these blind spots, and 4 of my 5 are very similar. Like as far as like the strengths throughout the books, I looked at your strengths, and you were kind of a little more all over the place.
Yep.
And it seems like
Now wait a minute. I may have made you mad, but what did I do to make him mad?
All over the place is good though. I think it would make it so you have fewer blind spots. Like when I look at mine, it's like, oh, I'm in a corner.
Yeah, good. So good point. We can talk about it quickly, Dustin. If you got all 5 of your attributes and they fall under strategic thinking, I got to tell you, you're going to be an amazing strategic thinker, but you're going to be missing lots of other things. I'm coaching an individual now that works for the Utah Department of Tourism, and he is completely strategic thinking. And again, we're working through what does that mean? Because he's now leading, supervising other people. And those blind spots associated with strategic thinking are big from the supervisory standpoint. But the good news is he's asking for help, and he's trying to do what he can to lower that blind spot, to close that gap.
Yeah, it seems like you'd have to make an even greater attempt to surround yourself with
I would.
a wide variety of people.
Dustin, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. You're spot on. You're spot on. Spot on. All right, let's do another one. Relationship builder. What are the strengths of, I'm sorry?
I was just thinking about that, and just knowing that about yourself and being able to find out what those blind spots are and gather those people together might make you, in the end, an even better leader.
Ooh, that is sweet.
You know you need those people more than someone else who's
That is such sweet coaching, because one of the first things I do as a coach is encourage people to share their strength profile with their team. And most of them go, not for all the money in the world. Is anybody going to know what I'm doing?
Well,
Not for all the money in the world.
I was just kind of thrown off because I think you're exactly right, but like I tried to guess mine before I got them, and I got 1 out of 5. I was like, oh dear. And like the ones that were picked were surprising. It just really highlighted that like you can be. But I think you're right, Stephen.
It's interesting. I've done this lots of places all over the world, as I said. Only one person, and it was a lady in Qatar, said to me, I don't think this is right. I don't think the information is correct. So again, 1 out of 500, 500 plus. The other folks have said, yeah, you know what? What I've been told is correct. This is correct. And again, there's no reason to fudge or to do anything but answer the questions as they are. That's kind of a dumb thing to do. You answer them how they're set out, and that should give you the most accurate. I've been doing this for 30 plus years. This is the best profile I've ever used. Spot on. All right, so again, quickly, just from a time standpoint, relationship builder. What's the strengths of a relationship builder? Yeah, you like people. We're all buddies. Friends. And we said earlier, what's the blind spot? If you got 4 or 5 relationship builders in your profile, what's the blind spot? Yeah, accountability. Anything associated with tough, crucial conversations. I don't have any relationship builder in mind, and I got to tell you, I have no problem having crucial conversations. I got lots of other problems, but I don't have that one. And again, that's just something for you to think about, consider as you move forward in your leadership life. Okay, 2 others. If you're a strategic thinker, what's the strength? What do guys like I have going for me because I got that strategic right at the top of my profile? All right. Think ahead. Big picture. Good. And what are some of the blind spots for a person like me that has strategic? Details for one. I worked in industry for 25 years, and 25 years in a row, my evaluation said, stinks of details. It was just better to Xerox it and put on the next one. Details, getting people engaged. I know where I want to go. Am I very good at getting other people engaged? Maybe not so good. The last one, influencing others. What's the strength of an influencing others? people will follow you off the cliff. People will follow you off the cliff. My older brother, who Jim played with in Europe, he's one of those guys that when you go on a 3-day backpack trip with him and you get out of the car to unload your backpack and you say to him, "Hey, big brother, tell me about the difference between the leadership of the South and the North in the Civil War." And 3 days later, as you're putting your backpack back in the car, he says, "And that's all I have to say about that." And for 3 days, we have been inspired by his stories, by his understanding, by his knowledge. And I will follow my big brother pretty well anywhere he wants me to go. And the blind spot for an influencing others, you're not so good at listening and paying attention to what others might have to say. All right, question number 2. So looking at your own strength profile, for those of you that had the courage to do it or were able to do it, we've talked about a number of them. Are there any of the ones that you have that showed up on yours that you might say, this is my strength, or potentially what's my blind spot? Anybody have any that they would like to share? Colleen, you showed me yours. What's one that you have that you might suggest would be your strength, might be your blind spot?
Let's see.
I remember a ranger. Can we start with a ranger?
Okay, a ranger, yeah. All right, so here I am being the training coordinator.
Yeah, so
It's a natural tendency of mine to be able to put all the pieces into a place because I'm a natural arranger.
if you got 100 things that need to be done, my suggestion is give Colleen a call. She will figure out some way to arrange them and make them better than where you are now. And she's been doing that since she was a little girl. And even when she's an old guy like me, that's a strength that she will continue to have. What's the blind spot for an arranger? Somebody that's really good at getting everything together, what's the blind spot?
The big picture.
Maybe. What else? Big picture stuff. Good at arranging things. I think there's truth to that. But what's a bigger blind spot for an arranger?
Perfectionism,
Maybe. Here's the one I would suggest. Sometimes she's arranging things so well that everybody else is just sitting around doing nothing, waiting for her to do it. And she's looking at me, I work for her, and she's looking at me and she's going, God, that dentist is sure a lazy son of a gun. And I'm looking at her going, doesn't matter, she's going to do it anyway. And oftentimes, we're both right. Oftentimes, we're both right. Any others? Please.
So my top one is a woo.
Okay.
And that one is, I mean, it's kind of, I'm very social, but at the same time, I get worried that people aren't going to take me seriously, and they're going to think that I'm immature, or, you know.
This is the last time I'm going to say anything about my son. He's a woo also. Again, what happens with people that woo, if you want to go to a party and you're uncomfortable, call her up. She'll make you have the best time you've ever had. She loves to introduce herself. She loves to talk to people she's never met. The only friends she doesn't have are the people she hadn't met yet. Winning others over. Woo. Very inspirational. People like being around you. People like your stories. People socialize and congregate to you. You do it naturally. You've done it since you were a little girl. I'll bet you do it when you're an old guy like me. And the blind spot for a woo, and again, I'll talk about my son, is sometimes my son tells me what I want to hear, not what I need to hear. And again, I know with my son, because I had him take this strength profile for Christmas 2 years ago, Now I know with my son that every once in a while I need to say to him, son, don't tell me what I want to hear. Tell me what's really going on. And our relationship has gotten better as a result of that. Because sometimes that's what a woo does. Anybody else? Please.
What's the blind spot of adaptability? Because that was my first one.
Okay, so what's the strength, first of all, of adaptability? What's the strength? Yeah. You and I have a meeting scheduled at 10 o'clock today, and I call you at 5 to 10 and say, Pat, I need to change it to 11 o'clock. What are you going to say? I can do that. And most of you in the room will say, it was scheduled at 10 o'clock. If you can't make 10 o'clock, it's your problem. We're going to have to schedule it for 3 weeks from tomorrow. And you don't like that? Tough. Not good old Pat. She says, come on in at 11. I'm cool with that. And the blind spot associated with adaptability is this. Sometimes you're so adaptable, people don't know what you stand for. Because people that are adaptable, they're willing to compromise, they're flexible, there's a lot of ways to get from here to there. And I would suggest as a leader, there are times that all of us have to put a stake in the sand and say, here's the deal. I'm not being adaptable on this, and it's important you understand the consequences. That might be a little harder for you, Pat, than it might be for me. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, we're running out of time. Let me ask, again, I'll be around at lunch. You can ask if you want. Last question. Let's just assume, let's play fairy tale for just a moment, that you have some interest in what we just talked about in the last hour and a half. That you have the courage to recognize you have strengths, but you're also humble enough to recognize that sometimes those blind spots are getting in your way. So my final question is, if you want to improve that effectiveness, how much should you try to improve it? Should you try to improve it 100%, 10%, 1%, or, why even bother?
I think there should be another option just for continuously.
Don't debate that. As we get into this afternoon session, here's where I'm going to end up. This stuff called leadership is hard. Don't think for one moment what we've been talking about the last hour and a half is easy stuff. Because leading people in 2013 in the United States of America is hard. And I promise you, it's going to get harder. We'll talk about that this afternoon. My encouragement to all of you as we break for lunch is take off a small take off just a small bit. Take off 1%. Be aware of what those blind spots are and have the courage to recognize that that gap is real. And if you can start closing it continuously, Dustin, 1% at a time, people will see it, they will acknowledge it, and they will recognize you for it. Thanks for letting me be here this morning. See you after lunch.